Following is a paid advertisement from Donini and Ramsey, attorneys at law. Donini and Ramsey, all traffic tickets, all the time.
Everybody, I'm Jill Myra, and welcome to Traffic Jam, the only show on television dedicated to keeping you up to date on all the traffic laws that affect every one of us every day. Well, there has been so much going on since we last taped our show, including many brand new laws that you need to know about if you drive in New Jersey. So, well, let's get started right away with our two traffic law expert attorneys, Paul Donini and Robert Ramsey. Well, let's get started, guys. There's so much to talk about since the last show.
Tons of stuff.
Well, Paul, I mean, some big stuff happened. Like over the years, many times you've talked about how everybody in New Jersey eventually will get a ticket. So I guess the same applies to getting involved in an accident. And recently, just last spring, our governor was almost killed in a bad traffic crash. So have there been any changes to the law since then, since that accident?
Well, you might remember, Jill, that when our governor was involved in that terrible tragedy, that there were some allegations made that some text messaging might have been going on between an occupant in his car and some other person. And this has really become a tremendous problem, especially among the younger drivers, even provisional drivers, people that haven't driven more than a couple of months are into this text messaging, which I have no clue what it's all about personally. But in any event, recently our legislature has seen fit to amend the cell phone law that has been in effect. It used to be what was called a secondary offense, meaning that an officer, if he saw you commit a primary offense, such as careless driving or a failure to stop at a stop sign or going through a red light, and you were operating a cellular phone, he could write you a ticket for not only the moving violation, but also for using the cell phone. And as I indicated earlier, that was a secondary offense, meaning he couldn't stop you just for using the cell phone. Now, it's become apparent over the last several months, probably a couple of years, that not only are people talking on the phone, but they're texting messages to whomever while operating a motor vehicle. And quite frankly, I find it hard enough to keep my eyes on the road and operate with two hands on the wheel. But be that as it may, the legislature has amended the cell phone statute so that not only is it illegal secondarily to be talking on the phone, but if you're talking on the phone or texting a message, you can be pulled over, and that's a primary offense. You can be pulled over for that alone. Now, the legislature, in its wisdom, said that if you're using that phone, and that means if you're talking on it, or if you're receiving a communication, or if you're texting on it, and you're pulled over, you could be issued a ticket. But it doesn't include dialing the damn phone, which to me is probably the most difficult and most dangerous part of the whole procedure, is when you're pushing the buttons. I think it's a little bit easier to be talking on a phone and driving than it is to be dialing a phone, but that isn't an offense. Now, the other thing that's really remarkable, or maybe it isn't remarkable, knowing our legislature,
if you think about money,
is that this statute has been used in plea bargaining situations in municipal court.
It's a non-point statute, that's why.
For example,
the fact that, in reference to the dialing.
Bob had a case where a person was speeding and he was able to convince the prosecutor to amend it to a cell phone violation in order that that person would pay only a fine and not have to pay a surcharge, because an unsafe violation carries a $250 surcharge. Well, the legislature eventually caught wind of this nefarious activity on the part of defense lawyers in amending to something other than unsafe. And so now what they did was they have said that if you amend a moving violation to a cell phone violation in order to avoid the points, it is deemed to be an equivalent to the unsafe violation and also carries a $250 surcharge. So in addition to the fine, you're paying the surcharge. Now, that's not the end of the story, because under the unsafe statute, if you have 2 unsafe amendments within a 5-year period, your next unsafe violation that you're found guilty of carries 4 points. Now they're deeming the cell phone violation to be an unsafe violation. It carries a $250 surcharge like the unsafe, and guess what?
What?
If you get 2 within 5 years, your next one is considered a 4-point violation. So
Aren't you
out
at
there,
this point? Isn't there nothing left?
no, really, they're taking away every benefit that a driver can have in a municipal court. So you people out there, you better be careful. When you go into court and the prosecutor says to you, if you got a speeding ticket, we're going to amend this to a cell phone ticket or an unsafe ticket, make sure you know whether or not you've had a guilty plea prior to either an unsafe or a cell phone violation, because you might be buying yourself 4 points, which for insurance purposes is going to jack up your premiums quite substantially. Now, if you pay that ticket through the violation window as opposed to going into court and plea bargaining, then it doesn't carry the $250 surcharge. So it's all smoke and mirrors, basically. I mean, the legislature's trying to turn you upside down and shake every dime they can out of your pocket once you get into municipal court.
It's a primary offense now, though, so that if the police see you stopping on a cell phone, they're going to be able to stop you just for that.
Right, it's not secondary.
And then bring you out of the car and strip search you and body cavity searches and all that other stuff. Probably look to find another cell
Bob
phone.
does get carried away sometimes.
Yeah,
Well,
really?
first of all, you're blaming me for this whole thing for the state. I had one case where this happened, and the judge made me bring in proof from the guy's cell phone bill that he was on the cell phone.
Don't tell anybody. They wanted to dismiss the ticket.
That wouldn't have been just. My client had to pay something.
Oh, interesting. Well, see, it's good to know these guys know what they're doing, though, and you got to keep up on these laws because they're changing
Now,
so
can I
fast.
talk to you for a second about the governor's situation? All right. The governor actually wound up getting a ticket out of this. And I think symbolically, the governor felt, since he'd almost been killed, and he attributed a lot of his injuries to the fact that he wasn't wearing a seatbelt, that it would be important that he get the message out that people should wear seatbelts, and I guess people should be wearing seatbelts. But you know, of course, as a lawyer, you do with this stuff, I was very suspicious of this, because the first thing I thought to myself was, okay, well, was he in the back seat? Because if he was in the back seat of the car, he doesn't have to wear a seatbelt. He's not required to wear a seatbelt.
Yeah, but I heard he likes to work the radio.
He was working the radio in the front, that's right. They probably had XM radio, and he was working it. The second thing was the procedure they used to give him the ticket, because I think what happened is the ticket was actually written at his order by the head of the New Jersey State Police, who just happened to be at the governor's mansion, and he ordered the governor. The governor ordered him.
Bumped into him.
Well, it just so happened that the head of the state police had a ticket book with him, and pulled out his ticket book, and at the governor's request, wrote a ticket charging him with a seatbelt violation, and then the governor took it and mailed the ticket in. But of course, the court couldn't accept it because the rules of court require that when there's a very serious accident like he had, it can't be handled in municipal court. It has to go to Superior Court to get permission to accept the money. So the whole thing was kind of screwy from the beginning. But
Couldn't he pardon himself?
he could have pardoned himself. That's right. I didn't think about that. But I think the governor had you know, outside of any political issues, he had a really important point he wanted to make, is that seatbelt saves lives, and he would not have been nearly as badly hurt as he was had he had a seatbelt on. He's lucky to be alive.
He is.
I guess you never saw those dummies on TV that, you know, like tell you to wear your seatbelt.
Oh, the crash dummies.
The crash test dummies, that's right. They're
Some of
very
our best
important.
clients.